Brace yourself for a mind-bending journey into the extraordinary. Prepare to meet individuals whose abilities and origins defy all logical explanation, leaving even the most skeptical observers questioning the very nature of humanity. Are they among us? These enigmatic beings with extraordinary powers and inexplicable origins. We're about to delve into the mysteries surrounding those who seem to transcend the boundaries of our world.
What is the Blue Planet Project? Well, the Blue Planet Project is a global movement dealing with the Earth's water crisis, but who cares about that? We're talking about another Blue Planet Project, a top secret document leaked by a supposed whistleblower from the US government, leaking info about decades of cooperation between the US military and alien forces right here on Earth. The document was never meant to be seen by the public, but in 1991, an anonymous author released it. It was filled with sketches, notes, diagrams about different alien species and their advanced technology. Then in 2014, more supposed secret information was released in a book entitled Blue Planet Project: An Inquiry into Alien Life Forms. This one contained lost chapters and was full of info that had been left out of the original release. Info we'll be diving into in more detail, but in general it contains stuff that's been leaked by a number of whistleblowers. There's actually more than one author. Their names are now known: Jefferson Souza and Gil Carlson, and apparently the bigwigs have not been happy. Ever since these books came out, there are 3 in total now, the United States government, NASA, and all those aliens working with them who thought they were being all sneaky have been absolutely pissed. The monkey wrench has been thrown, the secrets have been leaked, and now me and Hannah are here to kick them while they're down, and we're gonna mess up the global elite's plans even further with the help of all you fine subscribers. So let's get ready to rumble.
According to Blue Planet Project documents, there are 4 specific extraterrestrial races. Some you might have heard of before, and some you might have not. To ease us in, let's start with the most commonly known alien races: the Zeta Reticulans and the Reptilians. The first documented race are the Zeta Reticulans, aka the Greys. The Greys are your kind of stereotypical looking aliens, said to be humanoid beings with gray skin, large heads, and almond-shaped black eyes. They have slender bodies with elongated arms, legs, fingers, and toes, and their height ranges from 3 to 4 feet. The species is incredibly technologically advanced. They possess telepathic abilities and are often associated with abductions and genetic experimentations due to their scientific interest in humanity. Next described are the Reptilians, humanoid beings with scaly skin, slitted eyes, and sometimes even tails. According to reports, these guys are often aggressive and manipulative. Not only that, but apparently many of them have already infiltrated society. I'm talking the government. That's right, the president is a lizard.
One of the subjects that's come up in the Blue Planet Project conspiracy is the existence of alien pharmaceuticals. Now that does not sound very good. These are exactly what they sound like: highly advanced medications or substances that extraterrestrial beings possess, far superior to anything developed here on Earth, capable of treating diseases, enhancing physical abilities, or even altering consciousness. And that's where things get gnarly, because sure, we'd love to have quick cures to horrible illnesses, but I don't want to be swallowing pills covered in the grease stains by a race of reptilians. I want to control my dang brain on top of that, but that could be exactly what's going on. Aliens and the government working in unity to create highly addictive medications that keep us dumb, dependent, and delirious. But they may also be working on developing medications for humans that could help us endure long space flights, just like our space-faring pals. I don't want to come off too negative here, in case they're watching from their secret labs deep beneath the Denver airport.
Okay, now that we've covered Greys and Reptilians and gotten a little more information about the project from James, thank you James, let's talk about the remaining alien races discovered to date. We have the Nordics, the Mantis beings, and the Indistincts. Starting with the Nordics, or as you may know them, tall whites, which are tall, humanoid beings with fair or pale skin, light blonde hair, and blue or green eyes, along with an idealized, muscular physique. The Nordics Nordics are benevolent and spiritually advanced, with a goal to push humanity towards enlightenment and peace. And then there are the mantis beings. Insectoid, mantis-like creatures with long, slender bodies equipped with a human head and torso, large, compound insect eyes, and sectioned little insect limbs. Like the Nordics, mantis beings are considered spiritual beings with access to higher dimensional realms than our own. According to the documents laid out by the Blue Planet Project, there are also other variations of the four species, likely due to cross-coital interactions between them, as well as completely separate, indistinctable alien beings with appearances and motives that humans are just not yet able to conceptualize. So don't even bother thinking about it, because you can't. Your brain won't, you don't have that ability.
MAGI, the Majority Agency for Joint Intelligence, is a powerful government organization that controls a number of secretive projects, all detailed in the Blue Planet Project books. The projects are called Sigma, Sigma being the project which first made contact with aliens and continues to do so to this day. Plato, which is responsible for diplomatic relations with aliens. The US government apparently agreed to keep their presence secret in exchange for their technology. They also agreed to allow them to abduct humans and animals for experiments. The Aquarius Project was responsible for compiling the history of aliens on Earth and their interactions with humans, which apparently goes back thousands and thousands of years. The list just goes on and on, with multiple secret government projects all under this MJ-12 umbrella, all with specific jobs and tasks centered around dealing with the presence of aliens on Earth.
Remember how I mentioned the Zeta Reticulan scientific curiosity and how they are pretty much responsible for 99.9% of all abduction cases that we talk about on Earth? Well, let's dive a little deeper down that rabbit hole and talk about what exactly that process looks like according to documents connected to the Blue Planet Project. The abduction part itself is pretty murky, as most people who experience alien abductions often have lapses in their memory, the most common lapse taking place between the abduction and the release portion of the experience. What is generally remembered, however, are the lights, generally strange bright lights in the sky, and the sounds, generally pulsating low-pitch vibrational ones. And then of course there are the experiments. Human experiments performed by the Zetas. These include physical exams, reproductive exams that include the extraction of genetic material, and neurological tests, which generally involve brain scans and probing. Those who have gone through the process and lived generally experience trauma, PTSD, and memory loss, which, in case you forgot, I already mentioned.
Alright, so we got greys, reptilians, disgusting mantis people, and gorgeous Nordic aliens apparently that the US government has been aware of and even working with for decades. But what does this all mean for us? Well, there's all kinds of directions or things like this can go, but we can essentially boil it down to two: bad and good. If you're a glass half full kind of person, you might see some benefit to aliens and humans working together. In fact, I might even actually have more faith in extraterrestrials setting out to help humanity than our own governments. Take those supposed alien pharmaceuticals, for example. I mean, they could revolutionize medicine. On the flip side, they might just be revolutionizing the government's ability to control us. Then there's the alien tech. The book talks about advanced spacecraft and alien propulsion systems. If we learned to use this technology, space travel would become as common as flying on planes. We might even be able to explore other planets and possibly find new places to live. But on the other hand, there's the potential for some pretty dark implications.
I've got an implication for you. The implication that one day we will all become hybrid, crossbred versions of the aliens I described just a few points ago. Probably the Zetas, aka the Greys. Remember how I said that generally experiments will include reproductive examination with a biological material extraction component? Well, if you're wondering what they could possibly be using that material for, wonder no more. Zeta Reticuli is the name, hybridizing and crossbreeding is the game. Apparently, and according to the Blue Planet Project, Zetas have been using human DNA to create gray human hybrids for quite some time now, and many people who have been abducted claim to have actually encountered these human alien hybrids while aboard the Zeta spacecrafts. It is theorized that the practice is one of advancement and self-preservation. Simply put, the Greys engage in crossbreeding to ensure the longevity of their civilization and, I don't know, maybe make themselves a little bit taller. They max out at 4 feet. But if they wanted to try crossbreeding with a human, they could have just put put out an ad on Craigslist. I'm sure there's like 100 guys who would gladly jump at the chance to jump on a gray. They really don't need to be doing all that.
Of course, this conspiracy ties into a whole bunch of conspiracies dealing with aliens, including, of course, the fact that the government could be covering them up. Area 51, Bob Lazar, Dulce Base, cases of UFOs being spotted by mass amounts of people, only for the cases to mysteriously go cold. Many conspiracy theorists and even just the general public who's not even super into this sort of thing can probably agree that the government keeps a lot of things under wraps. And what bigger secret could there be than the presence of alien life right here on Earth? Why this book ain't all over the news, plastered on every street corner, being talked about on every podcast seeking the truth is beyond me. I can understand not being super surprised about grays in cahoots with the government. I mean, they're boring, but mantis beings? Everyone needs to be made aware of this immediately, which is why we're here with you right now.
I mean, it makes sense why the government is doing their absolute best to cover up the existence of multiple alien races making their way across the universe. How else would they be able to secretly reap the benefits of the advanced extraterrestrial technology? I know you touched upon it briefly, but let's get into it a little bit more. I'm talking specifically about the technologies used in alien spacecraft. You guys might recall a video James and I did a while back talking about the one and only Bob Lazar, who James also just mentioned, who claimed that the government was using Area 51 to reverse engineer a spacecraft that ran on moscovium, a highly unstable and radioactive element that has only ever been produced in a lab, on Earth at least. Well, according to the Blue Planet Project, that guy was telling the truth. The documents also claim that the military has used alien technology to create anti-gravity devices and to unlock the secrets of faster-than-light space travel. Not only that, but aliens have also provided us with exotic matter reactors and metal materials that can be trained to shapeshift in various environments. Imagine going to sleep one day and your laptop's a laptop and you wake up and it's like, I don't know, a statue of a bear or something? It's pretty cool.
The Pine Gap Facility, often described as Australia's Area 51. But there are many other conspiracies and rumors surrounding this place aside from UFOs and aliens. Spy technology, advanced military weaponry testing. Just what could be going on in this top secret facility, and why have Australians been protesting its existence since day one? In 1975, a pilot and several passengers flying a private plane near Pine Gap's airspace saw something they would never forget. The facility had only started operating 5 years before. Everyone was wondering what the hell was really going on in there, and the passengers and crew were hoping they were gonna see something while flying overhead, and see something they did. A large white object appeared, taking off from the base at an incredibly high speed. The object moved so fast that it was nearly impossible for the witnesses to get a good look at it before it vanished into the sky. The pilot, upon landing, reported the sighting. They were told to wait for investigators, and when these investigators arrived, they supposedly told the group to keep their mouths shut about what they'd seen and to forget the incident entirely. Obviously, not all of them did, and if there wasn't already heavy speculation and controversy about this facility amongst the Australian public before, there certainly was now. Now, what exactly is the Pine Gap facility? Sitting right in the middle of the outback, not too far from the remote town of Alice Springs, officially it's known as the Joint Defense Facility Pine Gap, and it's run by both the US and Australian governments. But what exactly goes on there? Like with any facility like this, there's the official answer and the more speculative ones. The facility is decked out with some serious tech. You know those big satellite dishes you see in movies? Pine Gap has plenty of them. They're used for all sorts of high-tech communication and surveillance activity. Officially, the facility is involved in intelligence gathering, satellite tracking, and missile detection. It's always been a controversial place though. It's seen a number of protests over the years, and many of them aren't even necessarily to do with the rumors and conspiracies, but they certainly don't help with its image. Pine Gap is rumored to be a secret site for advanced technology testing. Again, much like claims made about Area 51. A place where the military can try out their fancy new tech far away from the prying eyes of the public. And if you were gonna pick a spot for a test flight over your new advanced drone or aircraft, the Australian outback would be about as ideal as it gets. Ever seen Mad Max? Nothing out there but sand and kangaroos. I don't think there's actually any kangaroos in Mad Max, but you get my point. One of the main theories is that Pine Gap is involved in developing and testing advanced drones and aircraft. These drones could be used for anything from reconnaissance missions to lethal attacks. More on that next though. There are also rumors about Pine Gap being involved in cyber warfare testing, so developing new ways to protect against hacking or creating offensive strategies to mess with enemy computers. That's really the best way I can put it without doing a deep dive into exactly what hackers do on this kind of scale. I don't really know much about hacking other than the error messages I'd get that would screw up my janky old PC in the days of LimeWire. One of the biggest conspiracies is that Pine Gap is involved in operating spy satellites. I'd say a big part of this is the fact that it's jointly operated by the United States and Australia. It's partly run by the CIA, so that leads to some speculation for sure. It's rumored that Pine Gap plays a huge role in monitoring communications, radar, and other electronic signals from all over the world. The facility's remote location and the sophisticated tech make it a pretty ideal setup for controlling and receiving data from spy satellites orbiting Earth. There's a lot of speculation that Pine Gap works with various intelligence agencies to gather information on foreign military activity, enemy organizations, and just various global threats. I mean, this is barely even in the realm of conspiracy. It is a fact. It's involved in intelligence gathering, so I don't think spy satellites are really all that much of a stretch. It's really more of a question of, well, what exactly does this entail? Of course, they don't provide specifics because that would kind of defeat the purpose of the whole spying thing. Another one of the numerous conspiracy theories surrounding Pine Gap is its alleged role as an NSA or National Security Agency listening post. Edward Snowden famously brought this up, and it certainly makes the whole thing feel a lot more credible. According to the theory, Pine Gap is involved in surveillance and data collection, targeting domestic and international communications, using its advanced listening technology to intercept phone calls, your emails. Edward Snowden isn't the only guy to come out having said this, though. There are other whistleblower testimonies alleging that Pine Gap collaborates closely with the NSA to gather intelligence. Their claim is that the facility's ideal location and the powerful antennas make for intercepting large amounts of data, which is then processed and analyzed by intelligence analysts. Another intense rumor about Pine Gap is that it's involved in coordinating lethal drone strikes. Pine Gap is believed to have the tech and connections to control and direct drones used in targeted killings. So we already know they have the technology to efficiently gather intelligence and track targets. So once a target is identified, the data is sent to operators who can launch and guide drones to hit specific targets, often in remote or hard to reach areas. These drones can carry out precision strikes, taking out high value targets with little to no risk to any human soldiers. The idea that Pine Gap could be involved in operations like this, again, stems from the fact that it's another hub for US intelligence and military agencies. So it's no secret that the US has used drones for targeted strikes in various parts of the world, and Pine Gap's advanced technology would be a major asset for this type of thing. Accusations about drone strikes have been denied, but I mean, of course, they're gonna deny something like that. Targeted drone strikes are probably the most controversial part of modern warfare. After one drone strike in July of 2013 in Pakistan, campaigners claimed the intelligence for the strike came from Pine Gap. There was a ton of outrage, and a number of human rights groups called for a UN inquiry into whether the Australian government could be seen as complicit in the strikes alongside the US military. There were even some allegations that Australian officials might have facilitated targeted killing, which would be against international law. Now on to the stuff you've all been waiting for, of course, aliens and UFOs. Pine Gap has been a hotspot for conspiracy theories involving extraterrestrial research pretty much ever since it began operations. Some people are convinced that the facility is hiding evidence of alien life and is deeply involved in studying them and their technology. And this isn't just a situation of like, oh well, a big top secret government facility, gotta be aliens, right? No, there have been a lot of strange sightings in the area surrounding Pine Gap. Some people will even claim that Pine Gap is part of a global network of secret bases that collaborate on extraterrestrial research. Again, the American involvement certainly plays into this, so Pine Gap may be another facility like Area 51, according to the conspiracy anyway, where captured alien technology is reverse engineered. This could mean everything from developing new energy sources to building advanced propulsion systems similar to ones aliens could be using. There's also rumors that Pine Gap has underground facilities specifically designed for housing alien artifacts and possibly even extraterrestrial beings themselves. Let's get into some detail on a UFO sighting specifically, shall we? One of the most talked about encounters at Pine Gap happened early in the morning on December 22nd of 1989. So 3 men were heading home after an all-night hunting trip when something out of the ordinary caught their attention. It was around 4:30 a.m. when they noticed what looked like a door. But it was camouflaged to blend into its surroundings. Suddenly it opened right in front of them, and from behind it there was a huge metallic gray disc. The disc moved slightly, hovering over the base for a few moments. The hunters stood there, frozen in shock, and watched as this disc shot upwards and then vanished into the sky. As they tried to process what they'd just seen, they saw the camouflage door slowly move back into place, sealing shut as if it had never been there. Pine Gap employs around 1,000 people, and most of them live in the nearby town of Alice Springs. The workers are a mix of Australian and US intelligence personnel, but Alice Springs has a large American population, thanks to Pine Gap obviously, and visitors and townsfolk will often say, if you ask any of these Americans about their jobs, the common answer you'll get is that they're gardeners. It's apparently so common that it's become kind of an inside joke. Are all these people who say they're gardeners really gardeners, or could gardener be a cover for the real work these individuals do at the facility? Some people think that these so-called gardeners are involved in secretive operations at Pine Gap. Gardening, it's a pretty low-key profession, makes for a pretty convenient front for intelligence personnel and want to avoid drawing attention. At least that's what I'd say if everyone else hadn't picked that front too. I mean, you know, baker, carpenter, plenty of jobs to pick from, guys. Weather control. No, Pine Gap isn't even safe from accusations of weather control. This theory is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The idea is that the facility has the capability to manipulate weather patterns using advanced technology to create or alter it. And maybe they have help from some of that alien technology they're reverse engineering. Again, even without the possible secret alien technology hidden inside, people see the sophisticated equipment combined with the secretive nature of the facility, and questions start to form in people's heads like, could they be playing God and screwing with the weather? Could they be using methods like cloud seeding or even more advanced techniques, creating rain in drought-stricken areas? That would be nice. Or maybe they're working on ways to weaponize the weather. The concept of weather control isn't entirely far-fetched either. Various governments have been known to have explored weather modification in the past.
The Roswell incident is arguably the most famous UFO crash in history, although the government would claim otherwise. Basically, on June 24th of 1947, while searching for a crashed military aircraft, pilot Kenneth Arnold spotted 9 UFOs flying over the Cascade Mountains of Washington state in the US. The objects were flying in formation at a height of about 10,000 feet and a speed of approximately 1,900 kilometers per hour, which was not possible at the time, for humans that is. Kenneth described the way the objects moved as jerky, like rocks skipping over the water, flashing forward at strange intervals. When the media got a hold of the story, they coined the phrase flying saucer, and the UFO craze took off at hyperspeed, especially when on July 7th, a local rancher named Mac Brazel called the sheriff to let him know that one of those objects had somehow ended up on his farm, and this came to be known as the Roswell incident.
It was back in July of 1947 that something strange happened near Roswell, New Mexico. Something had crashed into the ground, into Brazel's farm. There were metal pieces, rubber strips, and a strange tin foil-like material. The nearby Roswell Army airfield was alerted. The military came out and collected the debris. At first they issued a press release saying they had recovered an unknown flying disc. This really got people talking, but just a day later the Army changed their story, saying it was actually just a weather balloon. Now, while some of the public took this at face value, it caused some controversy, especially in the years to come. People started to believe that the military was covering up something much bigger, possibly an alien spacecraft crash. Over the years, people started to come forward claiming to have seen the wreckage, and not only were there strange markings on the material described by some as hieroglyphics, but the material was incredibly strong and seemed to almost be impossible to burn. Oh, and of course, people who'd been called to the site to recover the material claimed to have seen bodies that were clearly not human. Over the years, many people have questioned the official explanation for this incident. Even former military personnel and locals said they saw strange things at the crash site, like debris that didn't look like it came from any known aircraft, and even small bodies that didn't seem human. In 1994, the US Air Force released a report saying the debris was from a top secret project called Project Mogul, a project that used high altitude balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests. They said the unusual materials found were just parts of these balloons and their sensors, but this explanation didn't satisfy everyone. In 1997, on the 50th anniversary of the incident, the Air Force released another report to address the claims about these alien bodies. They said these were actually just crash test dummies used in military experiments, not extraterrestrial beings. But again, a lot of people were and still are highly skeptical of this. The Roswell incident happened less than 2 years after the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan in 1945. Those bombs were created through a secret project that lasted 3 years and had 3 main sites, including one in New Mexico. So if the government could keep the atomic bomb a secret for so long, why wouldn't they be able and willing to hide information about a crashed UFO landing? Plus, little mannequins? I think most people would look at that and be able to tell the difference between an alien and a crash test dummy.
So this foreign object that landed on Mac Brazel's farm actually did so a few days prior to him calling into the sheriff's department. To be honest, he hadn't thought much of it until he started reading about Kenneth Arnold, flying saucers, and UFOs in the papers. Once he learned about the possible presence of technologically advanced ships with no known origin that likely came from outer space, he began to wonder if that was in fact what had landed on his farm just a few nights ago. And so he gathered up some of the debris and took them down to the local police station. In response, the sheriff immediately contacted the nearby army base, and soon intelligence officer Jesse Marcel had arrived on the scene and instructed Brazel to take him to the crash site so that the two could collect more debris. So let's talk about Jesse Marcel, the first military officer to step foot on the scene of the crash, because apparently Jesse had a lot to say, according to his son Jesse Jr., who went on to tell his father's story after his death in 1986. According to Jesse Jr., in 1947, when he was just 10 years old, his father woke him up in the middle of the night, excited after having visited the crash site. Jesse Jr. sat up as Jesse Sr. handed him some of the debris he had collected earlier that day on Brazel's farm, and he told Jesse Jr. to get a good look because the debris were something that he would never see again. They were not of this earth, and the pair simply could not make sense of them. Out of all of the debris his father had brought home, Jesse Jr. said that the one that fascinated him most was a small beam with purple-hued hieroglyphics. I suppose it's not difficult to see why the pair didn't believe the government when they released a report saying that what had been found on the Brazel's farm was nothing more than a discarded weather balloon. But of course, you don't mess with the government. And so for years, both Jesse Jr. and his father kept quiet about what they had seen. That is until in the late 1970s, a man named Stanton Friedman showed up asking questions. Stanton T. Friedman, a nuclear physicist turned ufologist, tracked down Jesse Sr. after being tipped off that a retired military man might know something about the Roswell incident, something that had been kept from the public for the past 31 years. And it turns out he did. Jesse Sr. told Freeman that the weather balloon story had in fact been a cover-up, and that the original wreckage had been replaced with a weather balloon shortly after military personnel first arrived on the scene. Not only that, but Jesse claimed that despite what their superiors had wanted them to believe, it was incredibly clear to everyone working on the site that the object had in fact been an extraterrestrial spaceship with outstanding craftsmanship and incredibly advanced out-of-this-world technologies. Although, unfortunately, Jesse did claim that he never got to witness the alleged aliens inside of the craft being pulled out, but still, he's ex-military. He was there. It's a pretty compelling case, if you ask me.
There are also witnesses aside from Brazel's claiming to have seen some strange things. So many of these witnesses stayed silent for years, but eventually began speaking out to close friends or family about what they'd seen, still fearing repercussions from the government. There was another crash site about 40 miles from Brazel's ranch where more wreckage and alien bodies were said to be being recovered. A firefighter who went to this site claimed that he saw a large disc in the ground and several small, non-human bodies nearby. He said that military officials told him to keep quiet about what he saw. Sergeant Melvin Brown also shared his experience. He said he rode in a truck with the bodies from the crash site to Roswell Field and then stood guard at the hangar where they were first kept. He was instructed not to look under a tarp, but he got curious and he peeked. He claimed he saw 2 alien bodies. The government has always denied his claims, but several people who were there or knew people who were there have said they saw wreckage and bodies arrive at Wright Field. Retired General Arthur Exon stated that a top secret committee was set up to oversee the investigation of this and other classified UFO incidents. After the Roswell crash, the debris was secretly flown from Fort Worth, Texas to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio. At Wright Field, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Exon, who later became the base commander, recalled that some of the material was very thin, but incredibly strong. And it wasn't just metal that arrived at Wright Field either. At the second crash site a few miles from the first, they discovered a smaller, more intact craft and 4 bodies lying nearby. These bodies did not look human. Again, according to witnesses, the bodies were described as being in fairly good condition despite having been exposed for 6 days. Some parts of the bodies have been chewed on by animals. Descriptions from those who saw the bodies are pretty consistent. They were said to be 4 to 5 feet tall, with big heads, large eyes, and small mouths. Basically your classic idea of an alien. They had thin bodies with long arms and 4 fingers. An army nurse who worked on the initial autopsy described how fragile the skulls and bones were too. The bodies were quickly placed in large, sealed wooden crates, loaded onto a B-29 bomber and flown to Fort Worth before being sent to Wright Field.
Now, the general public weren't the only ones concerned with the Roswell crash. In fact, one of the highest members of government was too, the president, which at the time was Harry S. Truman. After the incident took place, Truman became increasingly interested and concerned with UFOs, so much so that in 1948 he called a meeting with his military aide, Colonel Robert Laundrie, in the Oval Office to discuss UFO reports and what they might mean for the security of the country. Laundrie told Truman that, quote, all manner of objects and things were being seen in the sky by people as of late, which only led the president to worry more about the possibility of new, never-before-seen threats to the American people. And so Truman ordered a quarterly oral report from both Laundrie and the Air Force to be presented to him at the White House to discuss whether or not the UFO sightings would present any kind of immediate danger. Although neither the military or the Air Force were ever able or willing to provide Truman with any answers, the UFO sightings kept coming, and officials became more and more confused. To this day, it's unclear what information the government has gathered on UFOs, but what we do know is that if they do in fact have concrete evidence supporting the existence of alien life forms, they sure as heck aren't sharing it with us. Yet, fingers crossed.
The Roswell incident was the catalyst for pretty much every modern UFO conspiracy today. Before Roswell, the idea of aliens was just that, really, an idea. But when stories about this mysterious crash hit the papers, it really changed the public's view of the possibility of alien life forever. Suddenly, what people had read about in science fiction and fantasy novels or watched on the big screen was something a lot more concrete. Project Blue Book formed a few years after the Roswell incident, a genuine Air Force program dedicated to investigating UFOs, at least in the early days. Area 51, the mysterious Men in Black, Majestic 12, all of these things started being whispered about in the years following the Roswell incident.
Too often we hear about extraterrestrials and spacecraft sightings from individuals who, 1, have never actually been to space, and 2, have questionable levels of believability. I suppose this makes it all the more exciting when claims of extraterrestrial apparitions are brought forth by more credible sources, like Leland Melvin, an astronaut working for NASA who has logged over 565 hours in space and who claims to have seen an organic alien-like creature floating outside of his spacecraft back in 2009. When he spotted it, Melvin immediately contacted NASA's ground control, who informed him that what he was seeing was nothing more than a piece of ice that had broken off of a Freon hose. But Melvin maintained his stance, saying that what he saw was something else, something translucent, curved, and organic looking. He even took to Twitter to share his story to UFO Sightings Daily. In a short tweet, he described what he had seen and even finished it off with an alien emoji, just to be sure that we all understood what he meant by organic form from outer space. I'm not sure about you guys, but personally I'm inclined to believe the astronaut, with over 565 hours in space, who saw the thing head on, over some guys working in ground control sitting some 400 miles away.
There's said to be a secret space fleet called Solar Warden that flies around space protecting Earth from intergalactic threats. Oh, how I want this to be real. This is what I imagined the future being when I was little. If I knew this was a career path, I would have been on it from the get-go. According to the theory, the United States operates a fleet of spacecraft that patrol and defend Earth's orbit. Solar Warden supposedly consists of 8 massive motherships, each the size of an aircraft carrier, and 43 smaller scout ships. These spacecraft are said to be advanced enough to travel throughout the solar system, not just around Earth. Solar Warden was created with the help of advanced alien technology, which the US government allegedly obtained through secret agreements with extraterrestrial beings. So the fleet's main mission is to monitor and protect Earth from potential threats, whether they come from other countries or outer space. It's said they operate out of highly classified military bases, possibly even in remote locations like Antarctica. But where did this rumor get started? Well, most of these supposed leaks are thanks to a Scottish hacker named Gary McKinnon, who'd been hacking into nearly 100 military and NASA computers between February of 2001 and March of 2002. He claimed to have found images of UFOs and information hinting at this top secret fleet. This isn't just some random dude who'd claimed to have hacked into these computers. This really did happen. He got in very deep trouble for this. In fact, it's often been referred to as the biggest military computer hack of all time.
Now, if you're gonna have a super secret space program, what better location is there than the moon? And what better name is there than Project Moon Shadow? Allegedly, and according to self-proclaimed space program insiders Randy Kramer, Corey Good, and Tony Rodriguez, Project Moon Shadow is a military abduction project that unfortunately obtains and trains its assets against their will. Not only that, but they create them against the will of their mothers as well. The whole thing is incredibly dark. Basically, according to Kramer, Good, and Rodriguez, for years the government has been genetically modifying embryos and inseminating unsuspecting women. When the inseminated women give birth, they stay with their sons or daughters for a couple years before the government steps in and sweeps the youngsters away to a top secret military base located on the moon so that they can be trained in extraterrestrial telepathic communications, strategy, agility, and strength. When the soldiers are all grown up, they are handed weapons and deployed to various bases across the outskirts of Earth's atmosphere, where they spend the next 20 years until their retirement, protecting our planet, ready to defend it by any means necessary at a mere moment's notice.
As if we couldn't get any more comic booky than Space Warden and what Hannah just talked about, the Dark Fleet. Let's talk about them. There's a theory about a secret fleet of advanced spacecraft operating in deep space. Separate from other known space programs, this organization is in direct opposition to Space Warden. They're said to be made up of remnants of the Third Reich, and not only do they operate in space, working alongside hostile alien species, mainly reptilians, they're also said to be behind some of the darkest top secret programs right here on Earth, having infiltrated the United States government to carry out things like Operation Paperclip. This fleet allegedly has some of the most advanced technology, far beyond what the public is aware of. The spacecraft are described as large, heavily armed, and capable of traveling vast distances across the galaxy. Some say the Dark Fleet is based on the dark side of the moon or in hidden bases scattered throughout the solar system. These bases are supposedly well guarded and completely off limits to anyone not directly involved with the program. This is all outlined in a book called The Dark Fleet by Len Kasten, so if it sounds interesting to you, then check it out. project.
In 2020, Haim Eshed, a former Israeli security chief who once headed the Space Doctorate of Israel's Defense Ministry, decided that enough was enough and revealed a major alien conspiracy theory to the world. He claimed that there was a secret intergalactic federation that communicated with some of the highest-ranking officials on Earth, including the President of the United States, so that both humans and extraterrestrials could better understand one another and also work together to better understand the secrets of the universe. Furthermore, Eshed stated that while as far as the public knows humans have yet to settle on Mars, there is actually already an underground secret bunker located on the Red Planet. Haim also stated that at one point former President Donald Trump sought to reveal the organization to the world, but he was advised against it by human members of the Federation who believed it would cause mass hysteria and uncertain times. A sentiment shared by the extraterrestrial members of the Federation as well, who, according to Eshed, claimed that humanity was not yet ready to accept the truth. Are you?
So many governments around the world are looking to establish a presence in space. Russia and China are rumored to have space military capabilities, and the US and France have launched their own space forces. In 2019, Donald Trump created the US Space Force as a new branch of the armed forces. The exact mission of Space Force is still a bit vague, but Trump said it's about protecting America's interests in space. Maybe it has something to do with what Hannah just mentioned, the rumors of alien life forms having direct communication with several high-ranking officials on Earth. Now, by 2030, France hopes to have weaponized satellites in orbit, even armed with high-powered lasers, according to French Defense Minister Florence Parly. Some experts are getting kind of worried about this though. Mark Gubrud, a physicist and professor at the University of North Carolina, thinks this could lead to a dangerous space arms race, warning that it could end in, quote, destabilization and nuclear war.
Remember Randy Kramer from one of my last points, the whistleblower who revealed Project Moonshadow to the world only to be called a nut job by scientists and non-believers alike? Well, according to him, soldiers trained at the secret base on the surface of the moon were not only sent out to bases on the outskirts of the atmosphere, but also bases on other planets, including Mars. Mars is where Kramer claims to have been forced to serve as part of the Mars Defense Force for a total of 17 years before he was reassigned to the moon for his remaining 3 years of service. Kramer described his time on Mars as rigorous and eye-opening. Soldiers living on the Red Planet resided inside of an enclosed Earth-like ecosystem called Ares Prime, which was completed with farmers, farms, engineers, and bureaucratic governments. After Kramer's 20 years of service came to an end, his memory was wiped. His age regressed back to the age he was when he entered into the program, and then he was sent back in time to the original date of his departure to join the Moonshadow project. So how could he possibly know any of this? Well, according to Kramer, as well as aforementioned Good and Rodriguez, along with various other sources, 2 to 5% of participants in the program are actually immune to this memory erasure, and these are the ones who go on to spill the secrets of intergalactic warfare happening right above our heads.
Is there an advanced organization that has broken off from established government bodies, which has access to classified science data? Well, author and historian Richard Dolan thinks so. In his book The Secret Space Program and Breakaway Civilization, Dolan discusses the possibility of an elite group of humans who have separated from mainstream society using advanced technologies and assistance from extraterrestrials to build colonies on other planets and moons. Again, very cool idea, but it also sounds like the setting for a Power Rangers series rather than something that actually exists in real life. But could this breakaway civilization be what Haim Eshed was referring to, having built an underground colony on Mars? I hope. Be cool.
With all this talk of intergalactic military bases and force compliance, I thought it might be fun for us to take a moment to talk about a secret NASA tried to keep about one of the most famous and well-known space flights to date, the Apollo 12 moon landing mission. Playboys in space. That's right, on the Apollo 12 mission, astronauts Alan Bean and Pete Conrad got quite the surprise when they opened up their logbooks to find pictures of naked women tucked neatly in between pages containing incredibly important life or death mission tasks. Right away they knew that the pages had been placed there by their backup commander Dave Scott as a practical joke, but knowing that their every word was being recorded, they remained quiet so as to not piss off the taxpayers funding the mission, many of whom they assumed would not be amused by the astronauts taking part in practical jokes while attempting to flawlessly execute a multi-billion-dollar moon landing effort. They did, however, giggle a lot and often about the prank, which led many people on Earth to worry that Conrad and Bean might have been suffering from some kind of space madness. But nope, they were just teenage boys in love with naked women printed out on magazines.
Of all the alien species rumored to exist, seems the ones we have the closest ties with are the Greys. And if this is the first time you've heard about the Greys, probably also the first time you're watching this channel, so hello, welcome. The Greys are basically your classic, hairless, short little gray aliens with big black eyes. They even have their own emoji. Well, for decades or even longer, people have been reporting spotting these beings, and there are some who believe the United States government has direct contact with them. Not just having recovered their technology and doing experiments on dead alien bodies, but actually having formed an alliance with them. Organizations like Majestic 12 and top secret facilities like Pine Gap and Area 51 are rumored to be involved.
Starting us off at the number 10 spot is the late Queen Elizabeth II. So it's no secret that there are quite a lot of people out there who are not fans of the royal family. And while for some it might just be about an overall lack of likeness towards the monarchy, there are many out there whose hatred stems from a deep-seated belief that everyone in the royal family are in fact shape-shifting lizard people. This all started from some footage that was found online of the Queen where some particularly strange eyes seem to appear out of nowhere. In the video, the Queen is standing at what appears to be a game of sorts, and then all of a sudden her eyes change to look almost like some sort of crazy demon. Immediately people were freaked and jumped to the conclusion that it was because she was a shape-shifting lizard. But others blew it off as just her having bloodshot eyes. Now listen, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bloodshot eye that was completely black before. I'm just saying. As you can imagine, this footage did not help the royal family's rep of being from the constellation Draco and only further cemented the belief that they are all evil lizards. What do you think? Coming in at number 9 is Katy Perry. So here's the thing about lizard people. They tend to be exclusively pinned on celebrities. Now there is some reasoning behind this. It's because the shapeshifters are supposed to be evil, and so they take over the bodies of celebrities or leaders in order to be able to have the power to wreak havoc on our world. One of the celebs that people swear is a lizard is none other than Miss Teenage Dream herself, Katy Perry. The footage that brought her into this world comes from an interview she did years ago where for just a millisecond it appears like her eyes change color from a sort of blue to green, and just for a second it looks like her pupils turn into slits. Oh, I should mention that apparently a calling card of these lizard people is that they have green eyes, so her eyes supposedly changing to green was seen as proof of her real lizard self peeking through. Suspicious? You tell me. Next up at number 8 is Rihanna. I refuse to believe that Riri could be an evil reptile alien sent here to wreak havoc and cause evil, because number 1, she's like the chillest human ever, and 2, I mean, she's Rihanna, so I don't want it to be true. But it looks like even the good ones aren't safe according to believers of the lizard people. The proof comes from some kinda sus footage from what looks like a live talk show or something, and even though it's a bit blurry, it does look like there's something weird going on. If you pay close attention, it does appear that her eyes turn into slits for just a millisecond before turning back to normal. I mean, should we be worried? Could she really be a lizard person? I mean, even if she was, she would easily be the most beautiful lizard person I've ever seen, so at least there's that. Coming in at number 7 is Angelina Jolie. From what I have come to understand about the conspiracy race of the shape-shifting reptiles that walk the earth with us, is that more often than not, it is the eyes that give them away. Maybe their eyes are the hardest to control shape-shifting wise? I'm not totally sure, to be honest, but either way, there are definitely some strange videos out there with some weird things going on in the eyeball region. One of these videos is of A-lister Angelina Jolie. In this particular interview, you can see she's blinking her eyes a ton, which you might not think much of, but when you zoom in really tight and slow down the footage, you can see that there is a half a millisecond where it looks like her pupils elongate into slits before snapping right back into normal. My question is, does the blinking have anything to do with the trying to control their eyes from changing? Again, I have no clue what's true and have no facts to back that up, but the video is for sure a little strange. Next up at number 6 is Shakira. Once again, another pop princess with the voice of an angel has been accused of being one of the evil lizard people sent to destroy the planet. The clip that caused the uproar is from an interview a few years ago where, yep, you guessed it, her eyes slightly changed shape for a millisecond. For starters, her eyes are already quite dark, so it's a little hard to tell at first, but when the video gets slowed down and you zoom in, I will admit I can kinda see where people are going with the whole eyes changing thing. There is a moment where it does kind of look like her pupils shift into a thinner shape, and dare I say the iris kind of goes more coppery? Is that a sign? I have no idea. Truth be told, it might not be quite as obvious as some of the other ones on the list, but nonetheless, there are many out there that insist she is among the shapeshifters. Apparently it's not just her hips that don't lie, but her eyes too. Coming in at number 5 is Lady Gaga. Okay, let me make one thing very clear. I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga, like huge. I think she's an amazing artist and just a super badass person. All of that being said, I am fully aware that many people think she's a total weirdo, and like if lizard people did turn out to be real, I could see why people would suspect Gaga to be one. I mean, if anything, what is more camp than being a shape-shifting reptile masquerading as a human, right? The main clip that brought Gaga into the suspect list of shapeshifters was from a live interview several years back, and just like almost every alleged lizard person, the clues were in her eyes. Now, first off, her eye makeup, gorgeous, but if you peer a little deeper into those eyes, you might notice something kinda looks off. She looks down for a second, blinks her eyes, and then just ever so slightly you can see that it looks like her pupils change shape and get slightly thinner for a second. Then boom, back to normal. Also, she did once say in an interview that she has always loved to shapeshift. I mean, she was talking about her hair and makeup, but was it a clue? Is this solid proof she's a lizard person from the constellation of Draco? I guess it depends on who you ask. Next up at number 4 is Isaiah Carey. Several years back in 1995, there was a reporter for NBC who became an overnight sensation after a hilarious video of him swallowing a grasshopper aired during a live broadcast. People kind of fell in love with him because he had such a huge reaction and totally switched up his entire demeanor after he accidentally swallowed the bug. However, not too long after, some people noticed something was a little off about the video, and some even started to wonder if swallowing the bug was an accident at all. What's strange about this video is that if you pay close enough attention, kinda looks like his tongue is actually aiming for the bug, just like a frog reaching for a fly. Not to mention, he has quite a big tongue compared to most people, and it kinda looks a little pointy. Either way, after he swallows the bug, he immediately turns away from the camera, and some have suggested this is to hide any further evidence that he was actively shapeshifting at the time. But also, I would probably turn away from a camera if a bug flew into my mouth without warning too. I don't know, man. Either way, the video is hilarious, so let me know what you think. Evil reptile or funny human? Coming in at number 3 is a mysterious creature. So this video is definitely one of the weirder ones on this list, cause like actually what the heck is happening? Inside what appears to be some sort of cave, a pair of glowing orb eyeball things peek out from behind the wall, but when whoever is actually holding the camera advances on them, they quickly retreat back behind the wall. Like, not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy. The creature then continues to peek out to see if the cameraman is gone before stepping out completely, showing its unnerving form, and then suddenly bolting away deeper into the cave, never to be seen again. Now, the real question, of course, what is it? Is it a shapeshifter, a weird alien, some other weird thing we have never heard of or seen before? I mean, all I know is I would not want to see that alone in a dark cave by myself. I just have a bad feeling it would kill me and eat my flesh. I'm just saying. Coming in at number 2, a security guard. It goes without saying that presidents are not going to really go anywhere without their security guards. But what do we really know about their security? And if there is reason to believe that politicians themselves are a part of the alien lizard race, then wouldn't it make sense that their protection would be too? Well, speaking of, back in 2012, during a speech made by President Obama, footage of the audience captured a peculiar looking security guard in the crowd. At first glance, you might think it's just like a pale, bald dude standing there, but when they pan to the side, it straight up looks like he has no ears. I mean, what is going on here? It's giving Voldemort, if you ask me. Even weirder is when the video zooms in. If you really pay attention, it kind of looks like his head is pulsating, which, truth be told, I have no clue what that could be about, but lots of people have come forward saying it's definitely footage of him shapeshifting right before our eyes. I mean, would that mean that everyone in the CIA is a lizard person, or just a select few? I want to know how it's decided what people get taken over by the alien lizard overlords. What is their system is all. I'm just wondering. And last up today in our number 1 spot is Timothy Geithner. As I mentioned, it's not just A-list movie star celebs that have been accused of being a part of the lizard race taking over mankind. Among some of the most accused are politicians and even the staff that work under them. Former Secretary of the Treasury under President Obama's presidency is among one of those that some have come to believe is a dangerous lizard person hiding behind the face of a human man. The clip that raised some eyebrows and added him into the long list of potential involved personnel came from some kind of speech, and it definitely is very odd. Unlike most of the others on this list, it wasn't his eyes that had people questioning him, but the skin surrounding them. For a moment in the video, it looks like Timothy shifts into his reptile form, and the scales begin to show through the skin around his eyes, until suddenly he touches his face and it magically disappears. Like, could this be faked? I mean, of course it could, it's the internet. But like, was it? Or is it just a really super creepy video proving an alien race of lizard people? You tell me, man.
Coming in at number 10, we have WOW. The WOW signal of 1977. Over 40 years ago, the Big Ear Radio Telescope of Ohio State University detected something very strange indeed. An intense radio signal coming from the constellation of Sagittarius, which is about 5,000 light years away, was kicking off. The surprising sound lasted for 72 seconds and then was never heard of again. This is what it sounded like. Astronomer Jerry R. Eman noted the anomaly and simply wrote "wow" in his notes, which is how it came to be known as the WOW signal. Wow. Many scientists agree that it sounded like it could be of extraterrestrial origin. To this day, it remains one of the most convincing pieces of evidence for having experienced alien contact. Now, if aliens were trying to contact us though, it's likely that they would be long dead by now, as the area of space that the signal was coming from actually probably would have taken thousands of years to reach us. Coming in at number 9, we have the Silpho secret. In February 2018, a box containing alien hieroglyphics were found, and they were very similar to those found on the wreckage of the UFO that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The box was part of a recovered wreckage from an unidentified flying object that crashed in Seafoam Moor in Scarborough. The box was part of recovered wreckage from an unidentified flying object that crashed in Seafoam Moor in Scarborough, England. The remains had been housed at London's Science Museum since 1963, 5 years after the crash, which happened around the same time that Sputnik was launched. In 2018, a box containing fragments from the crash was rediscovered, and when a piece of the base was cut open, out came a book made of copper sheets, and they were found to contain strange symbols. A local cafe owner, Philip Longbottom, to me that sounds like a bit of a fake name, but sure, he said that he had translated the symbols and that they were a message from an alien called Ulo. Ulo was warning the human race to improve or disappear. Wah wah wah. Coming in at number 8 we have the Phoenix Lights. Were aliens trying to send a message with a light show? Some people certainly think so. It seems that in March 1997, over 20 years ago, a lot of people from Arizona and Nevada in the United States, as well as thousands of people from Mexico, reported seeing large spherical lights of different colors in the sky. Many say they saw red, orange, yellow and white lights flying around with no explanation. People believed that they were coming from triangular unidentified flying objects. Now I know what you're thinking, this sounds like a hoax, with people jumping on the bandwagon. But aside from there being thousands of reports, it seems that actually many credible sources came forward to say that they themselves had seen the lights. This included the Arizona governor at the time, Fife Symington. On record, he said it was bigger than anything that he has ever seen, and it remains a great mystery. Interestingly, some people reported an amnesia-like state following their exposure to the lights. Some say the flyby light show was a way in which aliens were trying to communicate with them. Coming in at number 7 we have the roar. It has been 13 years since space roared right at us. Blimey. So the story goes that in 2006, while the rest of us were listening to British indie and watching the World Cup and mourning the death of Steve Irwin, a group of California astronomers heard something very, very loud. Like, seriously, really loud. The Californian team were attempting to detect the very first stars in the universe, but instead of recording ancient cosmic light, they heard an almighty radio wave roar. In fact, this roar was 6 times greater than the combined emission of all known radio sources ever made, so, well, that's some space lion. While this wasn't the sound of the Big Bang, it was the sound of something mysterious from the early beginnings of the universe. Was it a message from our creators? We don't know. Next up we have the impossible fossil, the Coso artifact. The Coso or Coso artifact was a piece of 500,000-year-old geode discovered by Mike Micasell in Death Valley, California in 1961. Strangely enough, inside the geode, instead of a hollow cavity, there was a piece of porcelain and a magnetic shaft of metal. The outer layer of the geode was allegedly encrusted with fossil shells and fossil fragments dating back 500,000 years. This led to shock from the geological world. This kind of fossil was impossible, there shouldn't be anything close to man-made in the geode, and this led to a lot of people believing that the artifact was evidence of an ancient civilization or a secret message left on Earth by aliens waiting to be discovered. In the end though, it seems that actually the item encased was a spark plug, which many saw as evidence of time travel, although most credible geologists now think the plug ended up in a rock via concretion, although I still think this is really weird. Coming in at number 5 we have the Wiltshire Wonder. In August 2017, video footage emerged of a crop circle forming under a ball of light in a Wiltshire field. Wiltshire is in the west of England, and that has been home to many crop circle mysteries. A lot of people believe crop circles to be signs made by aliens. I mean, has anyone seen the 2002 movie Signs? Basically what was happening in Wiltshire was like a real scene out of the movie. Have a look at this footage shot over a crop circle.
Can you see those? If those are UFOs... Oh man.
I have to admit that that is really weird. Here's a closer look inside of the crop circle.
It's another center part.
And here is the circle from above. Are the lights an elaborate part of the hoax, or are these real alien signals? Coming into number 4 we have the SETI signal. In 2016 it was widely speculated that SETI may have heard from an alien civilization. Russian astronomers detected a signal from a star just 94 light years away from Earth, a star a lot like our own. Neighbours? Friends? Signals from star HD 164595 were picked up, and people were really excited as the signal came from within our own galaxy, the Milky Way. It's now speculated though that the signal had come from a Russian satellite. buzzkill. Had the signal come from another sun, it could have indicated a Type 2 civilization. We're a Type 1 civilization, we've found the way to use technology to harness the power of the sun, but a Type 2 civilization is like directly using the sun, which is pretty exciting. Coming in at number 3, we have the ancient travelers of Salamanca. The Cathedral of Salamanca was built between 1513 and 1733 in Spain, so long before humans had set their sights on space travel. So why then does the cathedral contain what is clearly an image of an astronaut in a space jacket? He's wearing a helmet and space boots and everything. Many people think that this is evidence that an alien society existed before ours. In actuality, it isn't a secret message at all. The cathedral was restored in the 1990s, and the stone carving of the astronaut was a later addition, perhaps a joke from an architect. It does continue to vex passers-by though. Coming into number 2, we have the fast radio bursts. For the past few years, scientists have been picking up strange signals from a distant galaxy as part of Breakthrough Listen. The Breakthrough Listen project set out to scan space for alien life or messages, and well, they may have done just that. The bursts were first detected in 2015, and since then, they have been heard around 24 times. The very short bursts sound a bit like ambulance sirens. A researcher at Breakthrough Listen, Danny Price, said, "There are lots of theories out there." He continued by saying, "There are some theories that they are from extraterrestrials." What? Other theories are that they actually could be the sounds of a big deep space event, like the sound of a star exploding, or perhaps the sound of a black hole, something along those lines. Right now, Breakthrough Listen are trying to figure out what they may mean and pinpoint where exactly they're coming from. Coming into number 1, we have Oumuamua. A Mau was first spotted from Hawaii in October 2018 and has since been heavily observed since. It's an interstellar alien comet that entered our solar system from a solar system beyond our very own, which is the first time that we have actually ever observed something truly alien close to home. The name it was given, Oumuamua, means messenger from afar. Some people think that the unusually shaped comet is actually an alien spaceship. They believe it's coming to deliver a secret message, or perhaps just checking out our hood. The reason people think it is a spaceship is because of its weird shape. It appears to be almost 10 times as long as it is wide. Rough calculations suggest it measures 100 feet by 100 feet by 600 feet, and that it spins on its axis every 7.5 hours. Now, we could only observe it as it flew by, but really, we have no idea what it is. Okay, so that was the top 10 scariest messages sent by aliens. Which did you think was the scariest? Now, this is where I would usually read out your comments, but instead I wanted to read this sentence from Stephen Hawking to close out our video. He said, "If aliens visit us, the outcome would be much as when Columbus landed in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans. We only have to look at ourselves and see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet." Great words from Stephen there, great words to live by.